I thought it went live. Wow, that is super fast. There must be an update at Google because I've never seen us go live that fast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Game Audio Hour number 95. Our weekly podcast where we discuss all things game audio, from creative ideas, the latest techniques, project experiences, to audio secrets. Here's where you'll find in-depth coverage and opinions related to game audio and the fact that Kyle needs a haircut. Look at that. Am I not beautiful? Look at that. Wow. That is a fresh, long head of grayish brown hair. I decided to do these chops. You guys like these? These long sideburns here? It's not fully chopped out. You know, it's got to get a little wider up here. But what do you think? How's that? Is my manscape? This is the manscaping episode.
It's classy. It's classy.
It's called lazy. Lazy is the word I use. That's why it's so long.
Whoa. If you can do it, rock it. That's what I said.
Yeah, I got to lose like 30 pounds to pull this off, but I'm doing it anyway. Believe it, and they shall. Never mind. So, what was I going to say? I had a really good segue for once. By the way, I watched last week's show. Well done with the segue, Alex. I love the disjointed segue.
I learned from the best.
Yeah, I was out having fun, gallivanting. Decided to take have no good reason except for just going and doing things with the family. And plus, we had that. I had that Monday off. I don't know if you guys did, and I take every Monday off I can get. No President's Day in Japan, Alex. It's odd.
Yeah, well, we had a presence of the United States once, but we kicked them out. It wasn't much good.
Yeah. That's smart. Wait till you see this next batch we're going to serve you.
Oh boy, yeah. Let's not go there. I'm speaking of ailments. I'm not in a good way myself. Last Saturday, I caught my son's cold, and as anybody out there with kids know, when you've got a child going to kindergarten and a 1-year-old, you're going to get colds everywhere. Anyway, caught my kid's cold, couldn't sleep, was really stiff the next day. Had to carry my daughter in the rain, like with one arm and then holding an umbrella in the other arm. And it's a well-known fact that actually I am physically extraordinarily weak. I'm quite tall and I'm fairly fit, but I'm an extraordinarily weak person. Like I can't lift anything. So I was holding my daughter with one arm, holding an umbrella with the other. And the thing is that normally when I hold my daughter, I can change arms so that I don't get tired. But because it was raining, I was holding like here, right? And as I was getting home, I thought, oh, this is bad because I'm kind of locked in this position. My arm's really hurting, but I have to get home. Just a few more steps. I get home, put it down, and then I get this huge cramp spasm in my shoulder blade, the arm that I was holding her. And I was kind of locked in that position for about 2 days with a cold. So every time I sneezed, was pure agony, because you know what, like muscle cramp spasms are like, if you remain in that position, you're just fine, but just because a slight deviation, and then that's just like pure pain.
Electricity right down the back.
Yeah, that's right. So that was that was a few days ago. Now I can move now, so that's good progress.
So I would say that now is the time to arm wrestle you, right?
You'd win against me if you arm wrestled me when you were sleeping. Really, you could just lean on me and I'll just fall over. I'm so weak. It's quite there's a problem. I should I don't know. Anyway, so all of that led to some unhealthy gear experimentation because I was basically sort of locked in front of my computer because once I sat down here, it's like, okay, I can't get up now, so I'm just going to stay here and move my wrists and fingers and stuff. And as a result, I bought one excellent plugin, which I'll talk about later, and started also experimenting a bit more with Ableton Live, which was a very, very, very blasphemous thing to do. Anyway,
what? Blasphemous?
Enough about me. Let's find out about the magnificent Vince.
Let's look at him. Take in that magnificence.
What? I don't know.
Sachet, Chante. What are all the words that go with the? Do the Vogue thing, Vince. You got the Vogue thing? That's karate Vogue. That's not the same.
Sorry. No, I don't know what to do here. I mean, you're talking about how how you're being a little lazy with your manscaping these days, and I can't help but think. I mean, I'll just look at this. Look, see, that's what I'm dealing with. So
it's beautiful.
It's shiny. That's what it is. People do like shiny things. But, well, I guess besides that, the incredible jealousy that I feel towards you guys with your beautiful, gorgeous, luxurious heads of hair, I'm doing all right.
Mine is thinning. You can see this. Look at this. This is practically my scalp right there.
It still looks good.
Well, thank you, Vince. And I say you're beautiful as well. So, hey, guys, should we start talking about something other than our beautiful faces?
Let's do that.
I should just put in a quick recommendation of a plugin that I got. This is yeah, you guys will know that I'm a pretty big fan of a company called PSP. I really like it's really appealing to me the fact that they're from Poland for some reason. It's like it bears absolutely no relevance to the quality of their stuff. You know, they could be from America, they could be from the UK, they could be from Zimbabwe or wherever, and you know, this doesn't make any difference. But I like the idea that we're kind of supporting companies in a like an upcoming tech environment, which apparently Poland is as far as tech development is concerned. There's a little bit of action going on in Poland. So it's really interesting and it's great. Anyway, PSP, at the moment they've got a special offer on their most recent plugin, which is called the PSP 2445.
Ooh.
And yeah, Matt M in the chat room knows exactly what I'm talking about. PSP 2445. This is PSP's emulation of two vintage reverb units called the EMT 245 and the EMT 246. And I don't know, I got to say, I have enough reverbs. You know, I've got all of Valhalla's stuff, their vintage verb, and I've got Valhalla Room, and I've got Valhalla Plate, and Valhalla Shimmer, and Valhalla.
So much Valhalla, you're practically Thor.
I have got all of the Valhalla stuff, and so like I need a new reverb, like I need a back spasm in the weekend, basically, which I don't. So anyway, PSP has an offer at the moment going for their 2445 reverb, which is basically $99, down from $129, I think. They released a new version with some extra controls and some bug fixes, and as like a celebration of that release, they're doing this offer. So I bought it. Well, I demoed it first, and I bought it. The reason I bought it is because there is something. The thing that I like about PSP is that they're a bit. You look at the interfaces and you look at their like marketing style and you look at their website, and okay, let's be frank, they're a little bit behind. You know, the website looks like it's done 10 years ago, and the interfaces don't look as super incredibly pretty as like the other stuff that comes out these days. But funnily enough, some of the despite all these plugins that I have, and you know, guys, that I'm a bit of a plugin whore, the PSP stuff tends to really kind of go the distance. Like it really sort of, despite all these extra stuff that I get, I still come back to like PSP Old Timer as which is a great I think it's like an opto compressor. Still come back to PSP's S-Quad EQs, like the McQ EQ and Noble Q, the Pultec emulation. Yeah. So anyway, when I saw that they're doing a new reverb, I thought, okay, I'd check it out. It's again, there's just that funny thing, you know. The good thing about PSP that I like is that it's not good for absolutely everything. Unlike a lot of Valhalla stuff, which is so heavily tweakable that you can basically get the same kind of sound out of like Valhalla stuff as this 2445, and actually Vintage Verb has an EMT emulation in it, so you can arguably get, you know, more or less at least Valhalla's take on how the hardware sounds. But it's I don't know, it's not good on everything 2445, but when it works well, it really is incredible. It's great at these sort of very short early reflections, really creating this beautiful kind of glassy, realistic room tone, which is like fantastic if you're doing stuff on like acoustic drums, or if you're using a mono synth, which I use a lot of, and you're just wanting to give it a little bit of width and a little bit of clarity. this 2445 is really, really good. The other good thing about it, which Valhalla kind of falls down on, if you're interested, is that the interface is really simple. And you can look at it and you know exactly what it's going to do just by looking at it. You know,
Now, do you mean
a lot of
PSP or Valhalla in this description?
I'm talking about PSP.
Oh, okay.
You know, if you look at the 2445, obviously it's an emulation of a hardware unit, which is very simplistic in itself. But if you look at it, you can instantly see, I know how to get this kind of tone that I'm hearing out of that unit because the controls are just right there. You don't have to worry about bass crossover or dampening or, a lot of this kinds of stuff that you get access to in Valhalla stuff. Valhalla stuff's really good if you want to get a tone and then really fine-tune it. However, if you're working quickly and you're kind of like in the groove and like, right, I need a little space on this right now, slam it on there, you know, just crank a little bit and it's just perfect. And it's got like this really, really interesting, nice character about it that, again, I can sort of feel that, yeah, like the other PSP stuff that I have, I got a feeling I'm going to be using this, coming back to it for quite some time. So if you're interested and you don't need another reverb like I don't, just like you don't need a back spasm on the weekend, go and grab it because it's $99 right now. And the early reflections, just nice. Just nice, Kyle. Just nice.
So check us out. On eBay, I just looked it up. The EMT 244, one sold recently, hardware, for, take a guess, how much do you think a 19-inch rack mount EMT 244 just sold for?
Yeah, I have no idea. $200?
What do you think, Vince? Give us a number.
I would have said 200, but I'll say 300.
It sold for $1,400.
Whoa, hold on.
So you're getting quite a deal if you go with a $99 version of a 1450.
I have to admit,
right now,
Kyle, can you give me a brief rundown on the history of EMT? Because I have to admit, I wasn't really familiar with EMT. I knew of Lexicon Reverbs, but I wasn't really familiar with EMT and their legacy.
I cannot help you there. I'm not familiar with them at all either. But I just did a search on eBay for an EMT. There were none. I did a search on reverb.com for EMT. There were none. And then I did a search on eBay for recently closed, which is only like the last 3 weeks, and one sold for $1,450.
This thing that sold for $1,450 that I'm looking at is not working, or 4 parts.
Wow.
Is it really? Clean, fixable unit here. You are right. Vocal reverb, clean, fixable unit.
So this is a bit of a dark horse, isn't it? Because I never really heard of EMT. And when I checked out this plugin because it was PSP, and I thought, let's have a look what they're doing now, and found that it's got like a really, it's just nice. Not super versatile, but just nice. Check it out.
Oh, my nose is itching. Sorry about that.
So there you go. That's my plugin recommendation for the week.
Well, I've got a little story along those lines myself. Ask me, say, hey, Kyle, what are you going to be doing this weekend?
Hey, Kyle, what are you going to be doing this weekend?
So I'm glad you guys asked. I'm going to go to the metal shop and make a plate reverb this weekend.
Oh, that's exciting.
I am super stoked. I got my schematics. I got my measurements. I called a place and said I need a sheet of stainless steel that is so by so, and they said, okay, we hook you up. And then my friend Jay, he works on old-timey cars, so if he's watching this show, he's about to find out. I'm going to call him and ask him to do the spot welding I need. And I just decided I wanted a plate reverb, and they're really simple to make. My God.
Are they really? How do you make one?
So you need to have a frame made in tube steel. And then you have some crossbars to maintain the rigidity of this frame, and then you hang the plate off of the corners with these like eye hooks that you tighten down, and they stretch the steel, literally pulling it so taut that it won't thunder on you. They call it thundering when it moves on its own or has too much voltage going in. And then you run your leads into it. It's super simple. It's like a spring reverb, except for it's being sent down a plate of metal. The only thing I don't like about, and then once I'm done, I'll put it inside a board, but at first I'm just going to use the metal frame, and I'm going to hang it in the live room out here. Run leads.
So wait a minute, hold on. Just take a step back.
Yeah.
Just take a step back. Forgive my my amateurish ignorance here, but you run your signal into it.
Yeah.
How does that work? And then how do you get output from the sheet of metal?
You have transformers on both ends that are going to. Let me not be an idiot, and let me just send a link here that we can all look at.
I think it's far more entertaining if you explain it, even if you sound like an idiot, Kyle.
Not like an idiot. Because I'm not an electronics guy, so I'm following this guy's build your own plate reverb.
Oh, I see.
TapeOp. And so when I get to that step, I'll just do what he said to do. You build the frame, the driver. So you have a bullet-shaped metal moving coil is screwed to the plate. 2 wires carrying the signal go to the coil, and it suspends. And it is suspended in a large, heavy circular magnet. It is important to be sure that moving the coil assembly does not rub or touch against the side of the magnet. Anyway, so the coil will shake and send that vibration down the plate, and then at the other end, another coil will shake and convert that into your audio signal and send it back to your well, there's the pickup. He's saying use piezo's, but I want to stay away from that.
Oh, I see. So you actually have to put a pickup on the coil, which is receiving vibrations from the.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so there's this place that looking for it. Anyway, so there's a place that I'll be sourcing that stuff from, but I don't see the link in this. I'm going to put it in the show notes for anybody who's interested in making their own reverb. But so let me tell you what the costs are for me so far. The sheet of metal, which is 3 foot by 6 foot, is going to cost me $70. The wood, which is just going to be a giant pine box, is going to cost me $50. The coil and stuff like that I'm buying from a link that I can't send you for $70, that I can't find. I can send it if I can find it. And then, use your own speaker wires and stuff like that, or your guitar cables and mono cables to go out to it. I'm sounding like an idiot right now. But that's what I'm doing this weekend.
Cool. So Mad BR in the chat room is asking if you're going to make it stereo. That would involve just having 2 of them?
Yeah, it'll be stereo.
So if you did want to make a stereo plate reverb, you would then need to make sure that both sheets are exactly the same?
So
how would that work?
So here's what I'm thinking about doing. I'm thinking about doing dual mono, but one sheet be a big sheet of brass and the other one be a big sheet of steel, because different metal has a different response on a plate, sounds differently. Apparently brass gets really brittle but has a really nice high-end sheen to it, like an airband, which we talk so much about. And steel just has that regular mid-range to high-end stuff for your plate reverb. And so I'm thinking about doing 2 sheets side by side. And here's where I've got to get some help. I'm going to I want to build a control box that you can select which metal sheet you want to send the signal to, and it's basically like a mute switch, controls that say where the audio is going to, and right below it controls that control these rubber clamps that are going to clamp down the sheets that aren't being used. So I was thinking about putting 3 sheets. That's why I laughed at first. I was thinking about going stainless steel, copper, and brass. And then what you can do is, if you want like sheet 1 and 2 on, but send the audio to 1, 2 will sympathetically be moving as well, and maybe add some really cool reverb effect to it. But I think that's probably going to be for a later build. I want to get this first build out of the way first that teaches me everything about how to do it.
Wow. So how big is this going to be? So it looks like a lot of your standard things are going to be around 6 feet long, 7 feet long. How big are your sheets that you got?
So I am purchasing a 3x6 sheet. So what's that? 3 feet? I mean, that's not 3 feet. So it's wider than my hands can go into the screen of. I'm purchasing a sheet that is wider than Hangouts and taller than Hangouts, because you can't see my hands. But there's this video. Again, I think we were talking about this before the show. One of my favorite artists, it might be pretty close to the top, frankly, Roxy Music, Brian Ferry. You would be surprised, Alex, because I know you think I am the biggest King Crimson Robert Fripp fan in the world. He has a studio tour, and this is what really inspired me, is they have a plate reverb in the back of the place. I'm going to find it for you really quickly and send you the link so you guys can see what it looks like. And it's made by a company called MixMix, MICMIX. Maybe that's what we should do, is just search for MixMix Plate Reverbs. Reverb. And they basically, I couldn't believe it, because whenever I've seen Plate Reverbs have been in studios, they're really huge and long, and they have a room to themselves. Especially if you look at the new plugin that came out from Waves, where they did the plates from Abbey Road. There's like 4 different plates and 4 different boxes, and they're in a whole area by themselves. But this was small and tall and had a great sound. I'm trying to get there, guys. Gosh darn it. I hate it when I have to do, I'm trying not to let there be dead air, but my computer isn't cooperating with me.
You often, during moments where you're just after you've asked yourself questions like, I wonder how people discovered bread. You also ask yourself questions like, I wonder people actually, they discovered something like a plate reverb. You know, how did people look at a sheet of metal and figure out, I wonder if we use, these electric signals of sound, put it in one end, and then put this pickup, which is a bunch of magnets with and all that kind of stuff on the other end, and it sounds like this. I wonder how they figured it out. Just like I wonder how people figured out that when you get flour and you put it with water and you're going to bang it around a bit and then you heat it up and it becoms bread. Well,
or who's the hungry sap that figured out that lobsters are edible? I mean,
or
there's a lot of work
snails,
there.
for that matter.
Anyway, I put a picture up. Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, you're just desperate at that point. You're just starving. Yeah. I'll eat anything. Snails I can kind of figure out, but you had to go below, attack a spider from the ocean, break it open, and eat it after you cooked it, but not eat it the next day. I mean, how many people died figuring out that you shouldn't reheat lobster? I've always wondered that one too.
I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah, that's what I heard. I mean, it could be not true, but I heard that you don't reheat lobster. I don't.
So welcome to Crustacean. This is Crustaceans Hour, everybody. Crustaceans Hour.
Yeah. Well, it's better than manscaping. So yes. So I am going to be learning a lot this weekend. Maybe you should ask me on Monday of next week, where maybe I'll look through my new plate reverb if it's done. I'm hoping. I'm being very ambitious, but we're also going to Disneyland, so I might not have it done next weekend. But I put a link in the chat room, and I'll put it in the show notes, to this plate reverb made by MixMic called the Master Room. And hey, man, Brian Ferry's using one on all his records. It's good enough for us. And this thing's tall and thin. Do you see it?
Let's have a look.
Yeah, that is the opposite of unwieldy that I usually associate
look at that.
with reverbs.
So
that
I'm going
really
to
nice
a little bit wider than that. That's like 1.5 feet, I'm guessing. They probably got a 1-foot plate in there because the board, the wood casing can't show, and I can't touch the plate, obviously. But that's what I'm going to do. Is going to suspend it like that.
Wow.
Well, that looks really, really, really neat. Really
very tidy, yeah.
Yeah, great little sort of furniture piece. It's like, what's this little podium here? Oh, that's my reverb unit. What?
Exactly. But some things you go and you think, like Alex, and kind of play. Whoa, look at that beautiful thing. What is going on in my hair? There's software that comes out, and it's $99 for something that costs $1,500. Let's round up because of shipping on eBay. So why not get the $99 version? Or the opposite happens. Why buy a plate reverb plugin when you can go make one for about $300? I'd rather just make one and have it permanently part of my studio and know that this is some unique piece of kit that I built for the studio.
I think that's I think the more that I get into all these different plugins, and after things really changed when I got this Dope for Dark Energy as well, and the plugins, great. I think the most important thing is to find things that have character and have like a specific thing that that this is what I'm going to go to for this. Like it's the same with like a synthesizer like the Dark Energy or most of PSP stuff has just like this character. It doesn't do everything. It's not great at everything, but the things that it does really well, you know exactly where to go to for a specific thing, and that's what I really like. And of course, the same can be said for if you have the ability and you have the facilities to actually make something like this yourself. There's like, how much more character can you possibly need than something actually made by you? That's just sort of sitting here, right here, like a piece of hardware that's made by you. That's 100% character, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so too. And I was wanting to bite off more than I could chew, but my friend told me not to. He said, "Let's just get one out of the way. He's going to help me build it." because I really do want to put those 3 plates in there and go stereo. If not, well, obviously I'd go stereo, but I just get to choose what plates I'm going to send the signal to.
Cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, here's a video, by the way, of how to build a plate. I'm going to put one more thing in there to belabor the point because I haven't brought up enough links dealing with plate reverbs. I'm actually going to watch that after the show and see what I'm doing wrong. And then I'll be, because when you think about the electronics of things, like people don't do things like make their own XLR cables. I'm always soldering my own XLR cables, or, putting gang plates in the wall, again, related to XLR. But a lot of stuff that's at the studio is really rudimentary electronics and soldering, and a spring reverb is the same. I can't say from the top of my head how one works, but then I read something and I go, oh my God, why did I think this was going to be hard? You buy a couple of pieces, you solder them together, you see if it works. The hard part's going to be, getting this giant piece of steel inside this frame and getting it so tight that it won't thunder. I think that's going to be the hardest part.
What about a tape delay?
Do you mean one of those right there?
Well, look at you.
You want to show the space reverb?
Oh yeah.
Look at you. No, I was just thinking that because that tape delay is something that really strikes me as being a little bit more complicated.
I had to put my mic back. Yeah, I mean that's about playheads, right? So in a tape delay, the playheads are what cause the delay, and you are, by going through the mode selector on an RE201, you're choosing which playheads are on and off. So as a signal goes across the playhead, it plays something. And so say you've got 4 playhead. If you've got them all 4 on, it'll go ding, 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 ding really fast. But if you only turn like 1 and 4 on, it's going to be ding, ding. And then as it goes around, it just keeps, ding, ding, and it has that space.
Right.
Famously, back to the days of Robert Fripp and Brian Eno, the old Frippertronics was done on these reel-to-reel machines, and they had them on mobile tables, and they could pull them apart and put them back together closer to decide how far the delay was going to be. And they would use one as a record head and the other one as a play head.
Yeah, one of the most brilliant, iconic, legendary, epoch-making synthesizer tunes of all time and history and galaxy and space and whatever is the original Doctor Who theme. And the original Doctor Who theme, because there weren't such things as, even the idea of a synthesizer was something very, very exotic in those days. But that bass line that we all know from the original Doctor Who theme was made by just copying that of bits of tape and putting them all together and then running it through a machine, which is, I think I read an article, because it was who was it? It was a woman and a man as part of the BBC Sound Workshop, I think it was. I can't remember. And I think there was an interview with the woman, and she was saying that they had they had chairs all around the laboratory so that they could have the tape ready to freely go in through the playhead for this long, because it's quite a long theme, the Doctor Who song. Yeah, that's anyway. Sorry, it is.
I'm trying to think of the name. So I did a Google search. Is it Murray Gold? Is that who created? No, it's not.
Might have been it.
No, he was born in 1969.
There's a few classic pictures of her.
Yeah, I knew it was a husband and wife team, I think. Is that what it was? Oh, man, why can't we think of these things? Oh, yes, Delia Derbyshire.
Right.
Ron Granier and Delia Derbyshire. I can't say her last name.
Derbyshire.
Oh, come on now. Don't be fancy. Why do you got to do me like that? Isn't that a song? Why you got to do me like that?
Well, it is now.
It is now. I didn't know we were going to have a reverb show, but the other thing I'm getting is, and it should be here tomorrow, is the Korg SDD 3000, which I'm super excited about. The one thing I will not be doing on that thing is the edge sound, because it's what the edge uses for those multiple delays at different patterns. But it's just such a great piece of kit, and they brought it out again, but as a foot pedal, but it's got the +4 option like we talked about on an earlier show. So I'm going to put it right here in my rack and have that delay as well. So I'll have Eventide delays and space, lexicon delays, space echo delay and reverbs, and now this Korg. I think I will be reverbed out, fellas, for hardware.
Fantastic. If some
Vince, what delays are you using? What reverbs?
Man, I don't go particularly crazy with reverbs, I got to admit. I don't really have much in terms of hardware. I used to actually have an old TC Electronics rack mount piece that I've long since gotten rid of. But right now, I use mostly overloud stuff. So I use the overloud Rematrix uh, for pretty much everything actually. I think it's a really fantastic convolution reverb.
That's nice.
But and there's that. Oh, well, besides Rematrix, I also use Overloud's Reverb, which is more along the lines of your old, PCM reverbs, like the Lexicon 80 and 90 and those things. And I like that because it's super simple to use. I was kind of resonating with what Alex was talking about earlier with the PSP's version of that EMT reverb being, really quite simple to use. A nice simple interface that gets you to something that you like really fast, as opposed to just throwing a whole bunch of different parameters at you and giving you all sorts of flexibility and robustness. No, just give me a few knobs here and there and let you be able to dial in something really quickly. That's
Nice.
really important to me.
In addition, we have a sponsor named Isotope, and they take care of us. We love them very, very much. Thank you, Isotope. They have just released for free, still get it, the DDLY, the digital delay that they have. It's free through March 10th. Go to their website, download it. You can load it on your iLock like I did and use it anywhere you want. I noticed the vinyl, which is also a free plugin from them. That one installs locally. I mean, it's free, so you don't really need to worry about installing it multiple times. But I'm one of those weird guys who kind of likes an iLock. Thank you, Isotope, for supporting the show, and congrats on these cool plugins.
Yeah, it is nice when they give all that free stuff. It's so it is so much easier nowadays.
Yeah, it's from them. It's absolutely. They just don't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So what was so I wanted to talk, guys, for a second, shifting gears away from what was the one thing in the green room we were going to talk about in addition to reverbs?
Sound effects pricing.
Sound effects pricing? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's right. So I want to make an announcement here as well. We're having a special show. I'm going to repeat this at the end. I should have said it at the beginning. On March 5th at 10 a.m., that's a Saturday, we're going to have a special show. Please tune in. This is a huge show. The guest is going to be Aston Microphones, and they're giving away a microphone and a Rycote suspension on the show live. We're not going to have the week-long kind of, tweet us something. It's going to be the same rules. We're going to show a hashtag. You've got to immediately tweet that hashtag, and we will be feverishly calculating the random number upon the closing of the show and see who is given the microphone. Those microphones are so damn good. I don't want to beat around the bush. I am not the kind of guy who runs around saying that budget gear is great gear. I do believe there is some budget gear that is great gear, but you can be so easily tricked in that price mark of what's good and what's not. To be fair, I think you can find a use for any microphone, whether it's good or bad. If you throw it in front of a distorted guitar on a cab or something, it might do some amazing sounds for you. But usually, budget gear has a limit to its use. That is not the case with these microphones. I can't stress that enough. They're two different types of mics. They've got two different models. One is less expensive than the other, but that's not saying that it's not as good. It just has different features. It's got a different capsule. It's doing different things. And as a matter of fact, on female vocals, I prefer the Origin, and yet also the Spirit, which is, yes, thank you, the Spirit, which is the next mic that they have. Also works well on female vocals, but in a different way. Like my wife is a soprano, and the Origin just has that opening kind of, if I had to describe it, the only way I can describe it is high def. It's got this kind of opening to it that is beautiful. And they went through a lot of testing and a lot of sending the mics out to people who are into techno, people who are engineers, people who are doing mixing, people who are singers, and getting all of their feedback back from all of these different microphone tunings that they sent out to everybody, and then settled on, of course, it'll be better explained by James, who's going to be on the show. But my understanding is they sent a bunch of mics to a bunch of people and then collected that information and said, here was the majority of the way people wanted our mics to be tuned. So I'm at NAMM. We're all at NAMM, except Alex, because Alex wouldn't swim here. I don't know why. And
my back.
we get on the, yeah, you're back. That's how you pulled it. You were halfway here. That and that shark. We're at NAMM. It is loud as blazes at NAMM. There's people everywhere. And I jump on the headphones, and they've got these really cool, what would you call what's the official term for those, Vince? Those microphone kind of sound shields.
Closure, is it? No, like a...
Yeah,
but it's not a closure, because it's
just
like
a portable baffle.
Yeah, this SE makes one. There's some other people that make them. But this is the third thing that Aston Mics makes, is they make one that's actually kind of rounded, and there's a video online where you can see a guy comparing theirs, which is called a Halo, to somebody else's, and you can clearly hear that theirs is actually cutting out more frequency than the other one. The other one is really just going right in front of your face, but theirs bends a little over the top and down the bottom, and really it made a huge difference. So they're so confident in those, they set them up at NAMM. We go there and we sing into the mics, and the Halo is really cutting out a lot of that noise, which I thought, that's fantastic. And then but I can still hear everybody behind me, so they had a dB switch on. I think it's 10 dB down and 20 dB down, and I popped it 10 dB down, and it was like I was the only person at NAMM. I immediately heard just me and the cans. There was some noise behind me, but it did not distract from what I was trying to hear, and I could hear the full frequency range in this. It blew me away. Anyway, so they're coming on the show March 5th. You got to get in on this show so that you can get in on the tweeting and you can have a chance to win. And James from Aston Microphones is going to be here, tuning in from England, which is the reason we're doing it on a Saturday, is because I didn't want to miss the opportunity to let everybody know about these microphones, which are in your price point and they totally stand up to microphones that are 3 times as much, and that's not an over-exaggeration. There are people on the internet who are putting them side by side with all kinds of expensive microphones, and it goes to show you that if you do your homework, you do hard work, you can release something that is fantastic and is really going to blow people away, and that's the case here. And also, last thing, made in England, so you can't beat that. I'm not saying that made in China is bad, but I don't think England's got another mic manufacturer, do they?
Well, let's see. I think Soundtronics is British, right?
Who?
I think Soundtronics.
I don't know.
I think. Well,
are they making mics?
Anyways, it is. Anyways, it's really cool that you have a homegrown, a British homegrown mic, as a really nice alternative in this price point, where you don't really see a whole lot of mics that are homegrown, either British homegrown, U.S. homegrown.
That's true. That's true. And I get so excited, I got to be careful how I describe things, because I'm really good at saying the wrong words.
I wish I could be there. This sucks. Especially because the time has to match with the UK, with UK time and US time. That kind of counts me on this side of the globe.
I know. I could. Well, you could do just you and James, and we'll sleep. Which do you prefer?
That sounds good. Let's do that.
I'm going to stay up, and I'm going to enter the contest as.
That would narrow down the odds for me winning the microphone too, because it'll be like just me.
If I enter as Giles Conson, do you think you'll be on it?
No, I think that would be just fine, Kyle. I think nobody would notice.
Nobody would notice. I'm like Superman with glasses.
So can you just repeat that time and date again for us?
It is going to be March 5th, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's going to be an hour-long show, just like we always do, live, chat rooms open. Jump in on this show. I'm actually hoping that it will prove to be maybe a good time slot for future changes. I mean, I don't know how many people can catch us Monday night, given especially the game industry with people working late oftentimes. It might be Saturday might be a better time slot for us. We got to figure that out. Anyway, thank you guys for letting me get that out. I'm still trying to hone my hosting skills. I watched a video the other day about a guy who said that when you charge money, this is a subject, about how do you charge for sound effects. Let me set it up a little description. Charging for composition is fairly straightforward. I charge $1,000 for a finished minute of music. It takes me between 6 to 8 hours to get that done. I usually give 3 revisions. I also put in my contract that this contract gets re-examined after 6 months in case somebody sits on some music and hasn't finished things yet, and then they come back 7 months later and say, okay, now go, and you've got like 3 more clients and you don't have time to get it for them. Those are the kind of the bullet points of my contract. But for sound effects, most of those things are the same, obviously, but not the $1,000 per finished minute of sound effects. That doesn't work. I got some guidance early on in my career from Matt Pearsall, and I think he said, and I'm going to say think because it was a long time ago and I don't want to misquote him, that he charged, well, here's what I ended up doing. For a while, I charged $25 for small sound effects, $50 for a little bit bigger, and $75 for the big, like ambient washes that last for a long time. But that's really tough because I always end up in these conversations where it's fallen over that time mark, and I say, okay, this is a $50 sound effect, and they go, no, it's more like a 25 because it's really close to this other one that's 25, and I go, well, but technically, and even so, they'll do things like, well, just trim it down, or something like that, give us a little bit less of it, and I go, okay, I give a little bit less, and now it falls, and when I give a little bit less, I lose, $25 just because, but that's some of the things that you do maintaining a client is you want to make sure that you maintain that relationship, but you also want to make sure that you get paid honorably for the work that you're putting so much effort into. So I was watching a video just a couple of days ago, and the guy said, here's how you bill things. You bill it by the day. That's it. And you never bill below $500 a day. Everything you do takes a day. And $500 is the lowest that you'll go. And as you start to build a name, as reputation starts to grow, you can raise that rate. And I started thinking, I wonder if that would work for sound effects. So I immediately thought about my sound effects and how I bill for them. How long would it take me? You take that 500 and you divide it by the work that you're going to do. And so I go, okay, if I'm going to do 10 $75 sound effects, that's going to take me a day and a half. It actually probably would take me 2 days, but I could rush it to get it in because the $75 ones are the big ones. So now I'm at, let's say, 10 $75 sound effects. I'm at $750. With that, I can say to the client, okay, if you need 10 of these, I can have them done in a day and a half, and that's going to cost you $750. None of that changes in my contract. It's just the description of how I get to say I'm going to do the work, which makes it easier. And then I can say, okay, listen, I'm $500 a day. If you want to pay for, I'm not going to have a $250 day. I'm going to have a $500 day. So you've got a day and a half worth of work. So what do you want to fill out that other $250 with? And they may say, I want 10 more sound effects. And I go, okay, well, let's look through, how you set these things up. They give you a list of, or they give you the game that they want you to put sound effects to. You put together a list of sound effects ranging in the times that it'll take, a bullet to a big, sound effect, and you present to them your big asset list. You go back and forth and decide on what assets are going to be done. And then in this example that I'm giving you very ham-fistedly, say I've got 10 $75 ones. I know that's a day and a half of work, but as long as I can find 10 $25 ones, then I know that's the other 250. It's now $1,000 for 2 days worth of work, and they've got 20 assets. 10 of them are the long ones, 10 of them are the short ones. Now you look at the rest of your asset list and you go, okay, here's a bunch of $50 ones. Well, I can do 10 of those in one day, and that's $500. And so now I've got 3 days worth of work. They've got 30 assets. And as I started breaking this down, I was like, man, I need to change my contract so it's like a day rate no less than $500, and I already know how much work I can get done. And it's accurate. I'm not bloating the numbers on either way. I'm not doing something that would take me a half a day and saying it'll take a day and a half, because those $75 ones are huge, and they've got so much looping and all that stuff going on that those take a lot of work. You're going to be, and when you think of your day being an 8-hour day, we're talking about 12 hours to get 10 big looping sound effects done. That's a very realistic timeline. So I think I'm going to change my my contract to be a day rate of no less than $500.
How can you be sure? It sounds reasonable, but I guess the one thing I'm thinking is how can you be sure that you are not going over limits when you start involving revisions? Because revisions is often if you say, okay, you get 3 revisions.
Yeah.
A revision, I guess you need to define what a revision is. But I mean, if a revision if the client says, sorry, this is completely wrong. It's just like way off target, and it's not really what I was hoping for. Here's a better explanation of what I was hoping for. So that is a revision. Whereas this is really good. Maybe could you just make it a little bit less bassy? That's also a revision. One takes 20 minutes, the other one takes a whole another day to do the whole thing again because you missed the point the first time, which happens to everybody because clients sometimes don't specify exactly what they want because they don't know what they want until they hear something, or clients may specify what they think they want. However, when they actually hear it, they realize, that's not what I wanted, or they just don't specify very clearly at all and I'll just have a fiddle around and see what you come up with.
Yeah.
In any case.
Absolutely, I'm on to you. And I also want to get to Chase's question in the chat room, which is moving on to part 2 of this. Here's my take on revisions. If I'm trying to remember how you worded it. If the client comes to me and says this is a whole redo, then I did something wrong. I should have understood better from them what they were expecting, and so therefore it's on me to do that revision anyway because I didn't clarify well enough. There's an old adage, measure twice and cut once, and man, does that apply to independent work. You got to make sure that you have absolutely asked every question that you can think of. Keep the email chain open. Keep reaching out to them and saying, hey, I'm still not quite on this concept. If you've got any question about a concept, don't work on it. If the client says, I can tell that we're not really communicating here, just give me an idea, that's up to you. There's a good chance that that's going to turn into a major revision. So I try to drill down as far as possible with descriptions, and I use all forms of communication to do that. Describe to me what you're hearing in color. Describe to me what you're hearing in time, and just try to get out of the client what it is that they want to hear. Now, it's very rare that I have to go to that extent because people are really good at describing music. They mostly will say, or sound effects will say, it's a gun. I want it to sound like an M16 out of Call of Duty, but not quite the same. And then you go, okay, I figured out what you got here, except for the not quite the same. What is that part? That's all we got to concentrate on, and then I can deliver you the sounds that you want. So if I've had that conversation and they say it's a complete redo, it's on me. I didn't get that clear enough, and so therefore that's part of the fixed bid kind of process, is to say, there's a dangerous end to fixed bid, right? That you say, here is the number, but if I screw this up, it's all money that I've lost. Whereas in time materials, you say, I can screw up all I want because it's time and materials. I'm just going to keep getting paid. So that's on their end, and they don't want time and materials because they have to keep paying you while you figure out what's going on, and you don't want necessarily fixed bid because you're saying, if anything screws up, it's money out of my pocket. So it's about that. I like that day rate, right? I can say that's a kind of a fixed bid for the day rate. Here's exactly what you can expect from me. Let's talk about these 10 or 20 assets for these 2 days of work and make sure that I hit it right on target. Because ultimately, even though I've given them 3 revisions in the contract, or 2 revisions in the original, so it's 3 total assets in the contract, they don't want to wait for that. They would love to be done and just have your assets. They're right on mark, put them in the game. There is the occasion where they put them in the game, they're totally stoked, and then they come back at the end of the game and say, you know what, these aren't working right now because the music's clashing with it or something like that. And that's really what the revisions are about for me. It's about, don't worry, I've got your back. You don't owe me any more money. You haven't had any revisions on these. We now have identified that there's a problem because they're clashing with some of the music. So let me, pitch those a little differently and get that straightened out for you.
I was going to say that thankfully this has never happened to me, but is there ever, in your experience, has there ever been a situation where the client is very specific about what they want? You've asked a lot of questions. You think you've got an excellent grip, and you've got an excellent idea in your mind of where you're going to do to get what you're going to do to get them exactly what they want. You give them something that's pretty much on target with their description. However, they've realized after they've heard it that it's actually not what they want. However, that the way that they portray it is that, no, you missed the mark. This is completely different. I meant like this. From your point of view, you're saying, well, that's not really the same as what you said the first time. But the actual situation that's happening here, this happened to me. However, the client, and I guess this would be the most cases, it would be like this. The client said, oh, sorry, yeah, now that I'm listening to it, I realized that that's not really what I wanted. This is what I wanted. But if you had a client that was not as, as warm-hearted as that and said, look, no, this is wrong. You got it wrong. I said I wanted this. It doesn't sound like that.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a situation like that? And if you did, how did you work that out?
I have, and I also want to hear from Vince on this when he's working with contractors. Well, I'm trying to, the simple way is just make sure everything's in writing. That's really the answer. Is just send emails back and forth, having these discussions. Whenever I have a discussion with a client, I do this for them as well as for me. I take down what we spoke about and I say in my email that this is my understanding of where we're going. And oftentimes they'll say, no, I didn't mean that, because I'll misunderstand something. But it's in writing, and you can say, okay, if they come back, I've had disappointed clients, or clients who are disappointed in the assets, but it's never been exactly like what you were talking about. There's one game I was working on where there was a bathroom, and the developers decided to throw some fart noises in there. And I thought every time you'd walk past the bathroom, you'd hear fart noises. And they were really, really liquidy fart noises, right? They were really like, oh. And so the game wasn't meant for that kind of crowd. So I contacted my contact there, and I said, how about I put some like Walt Disney kind of toots in there, some kind of really friendly, funny, non-offensive toots in there. And he was like, yeah, totally, go for it. And I did, and then they ended up, the developers liked the runny ones better, because they were, developers, they're eating pizza and working hard and cracking up on really kind of almost shock value kind of stuff. And I was kind of paying attention to the game. And what ended up happening is they said, we're not going to pay you for these Disney ones because this isn't what we want. We want those runny ones. But it is what I was asked for, based on my idea. I was the one who said, how about I do this? And they said, yes. And that was the real tricky part, right? Because they were saying, no, you put these in the game. And I'm saying, well, no, I just suggested them and we agreed upon them. And in the end, it was one of those situations where I feel personally that I was in the right. I have the paper trail to show that I was in the right. But is it worth harming the relationship with the developer over 3 or 4 Walt Disney-esque fart noises, which is about $100? It wasn't that big a deal. So I said, you know what, I'm going to take this one on the chin. No big deal. Let's just get right on track and keep moving forward. And in the end, they took all of the fart noises out of the game anyway. They decided later that we weren't going to have any of them. So had I been paid for them or not, they weren't going to be used in the game. And now I have a collection, if anybody's looking to buy, of Disney-esque fart noises. I'll sell them to you cheap, and if you call right now, I'll give you double the number of fart noises. Some of them will be legit.
Yeah, I think just before we go over to Vince, we're actually running out of time too.
Oh,
one thing that
we're gonna go to Vince, and I got to go to Chase's question.
Just one quick thing. There's one thing that really annoys me in professional relationships is too long didn't read. It's like, come on, too long didn't read for your RSS feed of blog posts or your Facebook or whatever. That's fine, but I mean, when you're sending long emails and people clearly don't read them because it's too long in business, that to me that's just really annoying. Anyway, sorry, that's a bit
irrelevant. You're totally protected. You send it. I look at it like a game of tennis. When I have a question, I send it out, and now I just don't want this to sound like a contentious conversation, because it doesn't have to be that way at all. And I very rarely, if maybe once or twice, have run into situations that got ugly. It's mostly everybody just wants to create really cool, creative stuff. So Vince, how do you deal with people that you're hiring outside of that wonderfully beautiful and exotic game company? I've added 3 adjectives.
Yeah. Well, it's really just that game company, but yeah, we have a few sound design contractors that we've used. The way that I do it, and is that we actually put these guys on retainer. So that game company is a little weird because we are constantly working on the game. Um, and because of that, there's a lot of uncertainty, which is very much not what you want to have on either side of a typical developer-client relationship. But we have an idea of what these sound designers can do, what they want to do, how we can use them. And so, when we say, oh, here's a sound designer that we think is really cool, let's utilize them. How can we utilize them? And we look at what our schedule is looking like right now. What are the things that we think that we could use them for? With how does that coincide with our schedule? What are we doing in terms of researching game mechanics, creating level designs, and how does he fit into that? And we project out for the next 2 or 3 months. And we basically say, hey, here's what we're offering you. We'll put you on a retainer of so many dollars for this month, and it will be for a minimum of 3 months. And we can keep on going past that at either of our choice. But how do you feel about that? And they know that there's some uncertainty there because that's what we deal with over at that game company, and a lot of other game designers as well. Not everyone is making, oh, it's a puzzle game with X number of assets. There's always going to be some uncertainty, and for some developers, it's more uncertainty than others. And I think doing this, where you present them with, this is what we think that the work is going to be like, this is what we project out over the next few months, therefore we've got this retainer number that we would like you to look at.
I love that because you're saving the indie people a lot of hard work. I'd much rather have a client come up to me and say, of course, I do get this, but it's usually some very low figure. So you want that figure to be a respectful figure. And if a company comes to me and says, retainer, 3 months, here's the number, then I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And the expectation of the work, right? So you can say, we want to get 20 assets from you a day for this number, Absolutely. If the number's right and the asset number's right and the price is right, then yeah, I mean you can't say no to that.
Usually we're not thinking, oh, we're going to work these guys, a full day every day of the week. It's more like not even a number of assets a day, because usually the way that we work with our schedules, it's more like, oh, probably by this week we'll have this, by this week we'll have this. Yeah. So, an expectation for how many hours maybe it will take them to do a certain amount of things in order to fulfill what's going on with the game for this particular week.
Now, have you honed in that weekly number based upon working with sound designers and the average that they usually charge for the kind of work that you're proposing they would do? Or are you guys on the budget end of that saying this is what we can afford to pay a sound designer per week?
We like to be nice. Since I'm a sound designer, I like to think, okay, this is what I think I'm doing. I'm doing this amount of work, and I value that work. And so I'm thinking about what he wants to do. And I also want him to not just put in the minimum for making a sound design. I want him to also feel like, oh, he can experiment if he wants to. He can try a little bit more because, in this week, it's not a crazy week where he's rushing to fill these things or, utilizing this budget just to make this particular number of sound assets for this week. So,
you said something very important. You said you want him or her to be engaged in the project and put out good work. That is so important, everybody. If your client isn't interested in you putting out good work and it's purely about the budget, you got to have that conversation and say, I really want to give this my all. I want to give you the best that I can. And so here's, more of the price that I'm looking at to be able to do that. It's a great way to sell yourself and say, if a number's too low, turn back around and say, I really want to give this my all, and here's a number that works a little bit better with my schedule. And also, don't go, if you've got a good number and you got a good thing going on, don't get greedy, man. Early in my career, I made a massive mistake of lining up a couple of games on top of each other, and I couldn't deliver for either one of them on time because I thought that, oh, let me see, I'll have some free time, and I ended up just being swamped by both of them. Very stressful. Got the game out, but I was late, and I don't want to be late. Our reputation is it's just so important. You don't want to stack clients on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to answer Vince. I don't want to interrupt if you had something more, but I want to get to Chase's things. So I'll if you got some more, let's go.
Let's go back to Chase's question, because that's an important question.
It is. How realistic, Chase says, is this for indie projects though? Which is what some of us are working in. I have had trouble. Wait a minute. Let me make sure this isn't personal. I don't want to say it on the air if it's personal. So he lost a bid because the budget from the indie was low. They didn't have the kind of indie studio budget, which is that ranges. My God, doesn't it? So never, ever, ever, ever work for free. You are doing something that so few people know how to do, and you are spending so much time trying to hone your skills, practicing at what you do. Never, ever sell yourself short by working for free. It doesn't make sense. But you don't have to work for loads of money either. Find something that means something to you. I have had contracts that resulted in about 3 bottles of scotch. That's fine. I'm okay. Pay me in scotch. I like scotch. Money works better because the grocery store doesn't like me to just spill scotch on my groceries and say I can leave now, right? But you don't have to work for large sums of money. There are ways around this. I have done contracts where I said, pay me $100 up front, and then I would like to have access to the first monies when you sell the game and you start making some money off of there at my regular rate. So say I've got a day rate now, because that's the way I'm going to adjust my contract, of $500, and they say, okay, we have, again, back to my example, we have 2 days of work for you. That's $1,000, but we don't have $1,000. I will say, do you have $100? Because I will work in your budget. That's the first thing. Let me back up a step. The first thing I say, I learned this from David Wrights, is always to just say, I'm sure I can work in your budget. There are some budgets that are too low, and it's very difficult to. In that case, you got to let that go. But if the budget is decent, the budget might be just, I can give you $100 now, and then I'll owe you $900 when the game comes out and I start making some money. That's fine. You got paid. You didn't do it for free. That's the most important part. And by doing that, you're easier to work with. People know that you're going to help them, that you're as interested in getting the game out as they are, that you're not going to be some worry that they have to keep in their mind. There's just this contract off to the side. First monies. Don't take last monies, because they may have made this deal with a bunch of people. First monies. Let me just, get my rate out of that, I also do a bro rate for people that I really like. Don't offer the bro rate is so common, I think you guys will agree, that people just automatically go the bro rate. And you go, I don't know you. We're talking over drinks at the W. I'm not giving you the bro rate, but I will work in your budget, and we will figure this out. And if it's a bottle of scotch up front, $100 a little bit later, and then $900 in 3 months, I can work with that. The next thing to add to that, in my opinion, and of course, just because we're on the YouTubes doesn't make me an expert. That's just the way I handle my own stuff. The next thing beyond that is, again, back to what Vince said. Talk to the client about your investment in the game. By saying, let me have my day rate when you start making some money. You're fully invested in the game, because you have to look at that contract and say, I am fully invested. You don't look at it and say, I only got paid $100 to do this. You didn't. You got your full rate. It's just that you're going to get paid a little bit later. Don't do yourself a disservice by being disrespectful to the client by giving them some phoned-in work. Do your good work. You've given that word. You've given that number. Work out the deal. But that's the only thing I have to say about that, Chase, is make sure you don't work for free. Find a deal that works for you, and if they can't do that, if they say, okay, we can't give you your day rate even after we start selling the game because we're going to give it away for free or something like that, walk away. No harm done. As long as you made that interaction not stressful for them, say to them, let's talk at the next game. Once you get this one out, and then we'll reconvene on the next game, because maybe they're going to be, that one's going to be $1.99 and they're going to start, some money. A lot of clients will say to you, oh, come on, just give me this one for free and then I'll do it. I'll pay you on the next one. They don't have an obligation to you. And so that's where I stay away from that. It's not that I'm trying to be an asshole. That's not the case whatsoever. But I also I have lights I got to keep on. I got food I got to put in a 9-year-old's mouth. My God, does she eat a lot out of house and home? It's unbelievable. So I take into consideration what I'm worth, what I have to do to keep myself in this profession, and free never works, even if there's a promissory note at the end. If they're willing to offer you a contract for that, that's a little bit like a rubber check, because if they never do a game, then that contract is null and void anyway, and you ended up doing free work. So never, ever do free work. Just work out a deal that works for you, and then, like I said, I'm repeating myself. Sorry, guys. What do you think?
Sage advice. Sage advice. It is tough because, I mean, especially like small indie developers, there is a bit of a sort of a gung-ho MacGyverish kind of attitude. It's like, yeah, I can do sound effects. I can just grab Audacity and go online, go to like freesound.org and sign up and just grab a whole bunch of stuff and just slap it in there together, and yeah, that sounds all right. And sometimes when developers do that, it's like, wow, that's pretty good. Well done. Now let me charge you money so that I can do it better for you.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. I'm dealing with that with mixing, because I'm mixing so many game soundtracks. I'm trying to talk to people about how important it is. It's no different than when you're doing a record, which we should do for a different show because it's 707. Yeah. But it's no different than when you're doing a record. You fall in love with what you're working on, and as a musician, a composer myself, oftentimes I'll say, listen to this, and when I send it to somebody who isn't the person who worked on the project but is a musician, they'll go, oh, you might want to work on your mix a little bit because you think it sounds amazing, and it never really does.
Yeah, I think that Chase's, or actually all of our positions, is really difficult with regard to that, just because there is sort of an attitude with the gung-ho developers who are doing most things themselves, which is fantastic, and it's wonderful that in this day and age it's possible. That like, come on, you want me to pay you that just to put together a few things from Freesound into Audacity? Come on, so it is difficult to ask for money off them, and it is difficult to sort of. You obviously need clients, and you need to be paid, but also you need things to put into your portfolio, and you need sort of experience as well, and it can be really tough to sort of to put your numbers up.
Oh, sorry, Alex. This is a long-term thing. This isn't a short-term thing. So you got to think about the long term. So anyway, I got to wrap this thing up because I've gotten long-winded and I hate hearing my voice. So I'm not going to watch this show because I hate that when I preach. Hey everybody. Hold on. Let me get to the spiel. Thanks for watching the show. There it is. Special thanks to the live chat room. Please subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. And thank you to Isotope. And don't forget about March 5th at 10 a.m. And I'm going to be tweeting the crap out of that. So if you're sick and tired of seeing my tweets, don't turn them off. Just come watch the show. Okay, bye.
Bye.